Hauntcast.
Haunting, Halloween, and horror.
You right.
Interviews with haunting gurus. Welcome back, me denizens. I'm Baker, and joining me deep down in the dark depths of the dungeon is sculptor, prop maker, and home haunter from Pumpkin Riot Productions in Plainville, Illinois. It's Brian Hunter. What's up, Brian?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, dude? Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, as it's after July 5th, I guess spooky season has officially begun.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We're deep into it now.
As I can see from your Instagram posts, you've been busy filling some prop orders and working on the haunt.
Yeah, I know. We're just trying to knock out some orders now and get deep into the haunt probably next week.
Now, due to the name Pumpkin Riot Productions, when I first started kind of coming across you on Instagram, I thought you were a professional prop company, and then as I dug a little deeper, I realized, oh, you're a home haunter. That does sell some of your creations to the public, actually.
Yeah, home haunter first of all, and always. But then, one thing leads to another, and you start, you pick up some clay and you start sculpting away, and all of a sudden, hey, you start making some stuff, and it takes off in a hurry. So it's been fun. But always a home haunter first.
Is that what happened? You just started posting some of your work online, and people started hitting you up, going, "Hey, could you make one for me?" Is that pretty much how it goes?
Pretty much. It first started with the home haunt. Yeah, I started making stuff, out of posable skeletons, redoing them, repurposing them, and then I didn't get into sculpting until probably, I want to say 2020, 2019. And I was buying prop heads from other companies, like closed casting studios. I love them. And I made great bodies for them. And they were like 8, 9, 10 feet tall. And people were like, "We love the bodies. We love the heads. Did you make the whole thing?" Yeah, I made everything but the head. And everyone kept asking there. It kind of, you want to say the whole thing is yours, I guess. You want to lay claim to everything. And so I started, I just didn't know the process of making the prop heads and all that, so I did some YouTubing and Googling. And I see a lot of them are sculpting out of clay. You make the mold, you do the latex. And I gave it a shot. And one thing led to another. You kind of a lot of self-teaching. I read some books and just kind of played with it, and we're 4 years later, and we're selling stuff, and it's great. It's fun.
Yeah.
I don't make a lot. Like I said, I'm not a pro company. I'm not Distortions. I'm not out here poison props or making mass amounts of orders here. I sell a handful every year, and that's enough for me.
There's some dude in his garage.
That's pretty much it. Dude in the garage who took over the garage and then took over the basement.
Yeah, I have to work out of my basement. I would love to have a garage. I'm pissed that I don't have a garage. My house was built, and they converted. This probably happened right after it was built. It was a 2-bedroom house, and they just converted the garage into the master bedroom. So there's no garage in that. There was one probably within the first couple of years of this house being built back in the 70s, but now, so I have to do everything out of my basement, which I make work for me. It's all right. But I would love to have a garage where I could throw the door open and, have more fresh air in there, especially when I'm working with, some chemicals and, carving out foam and all those fumes and shit floating around. I'm trying to be better about wearing masks and, whatever, those irrigation masks or whatever you call those things.
The respirators
and stuff like that, just so I'm not breathing that crap. So I'm trying to get better at it, instead of, just like I used to do for years, is just, go completely, raw dog, no masks, no nothing.
you're talking to you're preaching to the choir. I try. I got a respirator. I have masks. And I threw them on for the most part. But like even like today, I'm painting a couple witches for some orders, and I'm just down there, and I forget. And all of a sudden, I start coughing. I'm like, I should probably throw that on.
Yeah, that's the sign when you start hacking blood. You got to put. You probably should put that thing on. That's
when do you have to go outside for a fresh breath air? Like, maybe I'll throw that back down when I go back down there.
One thing I just picked up is that you have the 2024 haunt theme is Hail the Thinning of the Veil. Do you change up your haunt theme each year?
Yes and no. So a lot of stuff comes back every year, but we do change up quite a bit. It mainly stays the pumpkin theme. When it comes to Halloween, I think pumpkins, I think witches. We don't do anything gory. But we try to do a theme and we try to focus on that. So I know like a couple of years ago we did like Season of the Witch and I made a bunch of witches and I threw them out there, but there's always pumpkins. So every year there's always going to be pumpkins. That's kind of the going. But then every year we try to change it up. And so tonight, like this year, we're doing All Hail the Thinning of the Veil. So we're trying to focus on, worshiping the pumpkin, the veil's thinning, and there's something going on. So it's going to be, I have the idea in my head of what it should look like this year. Getting to that point is we'll see if we get there. I have a lot of things I want to do. Whether I get to them all, we'll see.
You never do. It never happens.
Never.
You get what you can, and you just got to know when to stop. That's the kind of the thing is you got to know when this thing has got to go. This is a next year thing.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
I got there last year. That the tremendous creature that I just built, that was from last year. I had the plan. I got to a point, and I go, you know what? No, that's a next year thing. I'll get to that. That will be one of the first things I tackle next year, which it was. Just because I was like, I just got to a point where I was like, and I didn't do as much last year. Like this year, I'm going much bigger. Like I'm doing three big creatures.
Nice.
And I've got to do some fix-ups on a few other things.
Yeah, we try to take things out too. I don't know about you. Do you recycle through stuff? Do you take something out and throw something in this place? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that tremendous creature was what I call Gordy. I originally had a Gordy that I had reworked. The first one, the feet were it was like a vine creature, like a pumpkin creep.
Okay.
And it was like crouched. I had a great little crouch down position, like as if it was walking through the yard. But I made the feet, it was supposed to be like vines going into the ground, like for the feet, like there was like two big toes in the front and one in the back, and they were just way too ridiculously big, like cartoonishly big. Mm-hmm. And then after about a year or so, I realized, I just didn't like the look of it. I'm constantly doing that. I look at something and go, I loved it when I made it. Now I look at it more objectively and go, I don't like it. There's something wrong. I got to fix it. And I went and I chopped the feet off. I redid the feet, recoated the entire thing, and repainted the entire thing. And then it looked freaking great. And I loved it. But I didn't build it strong enough, and I built it out of wood, and I didn't use enough, I didn't brace it or glue it in as well. I should have used wood glue when I screwed everything together to hold it, give it a little extra bond. I didn't do that. A bunch of mistakes I made. And so by the time it finally just fell apart, which was on Halloween night, it completely collapsed, and I had to run, grab it, and throw it around the side of the house. But it had its day, and then I was thinking, should I just try to refix it, which I should have done, but I finally just said I'm going to scrap it. I'm going to redo it with an entire metal armature. So I contacted Brent at DC Props, and I gave him the dimensions of what I wanted. And when he shipped it to me, I had the thing in like a crouched position, but due to packing and making it and being able to ship it, without having a massive box and paying all that additional freight, it was a little too more upright. I didn't realize it was going to be so upright, and I don't weld, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I just kind of started building it out, and I just made it more of a standing upright pumpkin creature. Never liked it. Like I made it, and I was never happy with it. And I had it out there for a number of years. And then last year, I finally said, nope. I was going to redo it, but I didn't want to take the extra time, so I just didn't put it out. I'm like, it's not going out anymore until I redo it. And I looked at it and I go, that would be a great like walking tree creature, like an Ent from Lord of the Rings or something. And I said that would be awesome. But I just said, yeah, it's gone. Not this year. I'm done with it. I'm sick of looking at it. I'm not happy with it, and I got rid of it. How about you?
You have that. I've made things. You think you love it the first time you make it. Oh, this is great, and you put it out there, and then like you're looking at it. The more you stare at it, like no. I've made things that I've hated off the get go, but I sank too much time and money into it. You're going out there, whether you go out there for one season or not. I don't care. You're going out there. I had last year. I made an animatronic. I made a scarecrow, and he's on this beam. And he just sways back and forth, nothing crazy. And I hated how it looked. It was too heavy. I burned out a motor. Halfway through the season, had to get on a ladder, climb up there, take out a motor, put one in there, rewire it, and then it died Halloween week. And now that's one of those things this year. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I'd rather just take the whole thing down, build something else up there. But like I said, time and
Yeah.
it's crunch time, and August is, I disappear into the garage all of August, and we'll see what comes out.
Your neighbors and the people come to your house probably think it's great. You hate it. I know how I get like that. I go, it doesn't matter. I know other people can be like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm like,
No.
And I haven't done that with too many of my props that I've made, that I've really just go like, that was just one that I really, most of the props I've made, I've actually been fairly happy with, although sometimes I do tweak them and rework them.
Oh yeah.
There is a couple of little froggy creatures this was the only thing I've ever like casted and molded and casted, sculpted. I made these little frog heads, and then I molded, casted them, and it was my first experience in just trying it out and seeing how the process worked. And then, so I made 3 of them because I wanted to have 3 little frog creatures, like little minion creatures, and I just, this one I made 2 and I never did the third one. It took me a couple of years. I finally did the third one last year, and after I did that one, I go, wow, because I didn't stick with the full mode. I used some foam clay, and I kind of added like more details under the eyes and made it look a little bit more scaly, so less froggish, and a little bit more like a hybrid between a fish frog, like a fish frog.
Okay.
Because I'm doing this Innsmouth thing from Lovecraft, where the deep ones are fish frogs, basically, like a hybrid. And so I realized that so I did that one up, and I go, ooh, wow, that came out really cool. Now I got to do the other 2 over. So now I got to give the other ones a little makeover. And if I have time, I'm going to do that this year. And I really hope I'm going to be able to squeeze that in. And I'm sure I can, but foam clay's pretty forgiving and easy to work with. So
And it's great to add features too, like you're doing. It is. If you want to come back and rework something, I've done to a few of our witches. I've used that in Monster Mud to kind of rework it and even strengthen it a little bit. Now I did that last year. We had these 3. We call them the Scorched Witches. And it was the first thing I made. Like I took Home Depot skeletons, reworked them, shaved them off with a Dremel. I made hats from scratch, and then that was the first thing I made back in 2019. And then every year I kind of add to the witches. I kind of rework them a little bit. I repaint them. I add some, with it just cheap creep cloth, or I'll add some features to them. And they're about brittle as they're about done. They've about had it. The unforgiving Illinois weather, but I'll put them out there because they're one of the crowd favorites. But I'll put them out there until they fall apart.
my original tree creature I did rework numerous times, and most of it was just coating it, because I at that time I was just like, oh, everybody was like paper mache. It was like, it was way back in the early 2010s, 2000. It was when I first started Hauntcast, when I first kind of started my haunt, and everything online. Everybody was talking about only pay. People are just building stuff in their houses. You can't, not around here with the weather I get, and you can't put things out that are paper mache. I tried to spar urethane it because everybody's like, oh, you just coat it with spar urethane. Yeah, the spar urethane barely even cut it. I had then flat leak sealed that thing. I did,
Yeah.
And then eventually I coated it with what's called Habitat Black from Smooth On. If you've ever seen it,
No.
It's an epoxy putty. It is pricey, but it amazingly gets the job done. It will harden like almost cement hard, like rock hard, and you can make a stamp out of a silicone stamp of a bark. I did it off of a tree, and you press it into it. You spray it down. You have to use a lot of water when you're doing it. Spraying it, keep dunking the silicone stamp in water and pressing it into the putty. You only need like about a 1/4 inch or so of putty on the thing, and then you hit that thing with the stamp, and it hardens rock, and it gets the bark texture in there. It's kind of the same thing I did with my tremendous creature I just did as well. I got a new stamp that had a little bit more detail to it. And also that it didn't have the same bark texture as the other guy. And then when I did that was when it was finally done. That was when I coated it with that and then repainted it. So that thing had been coated like 5 different times with everything you can imagine, all kinds of spar urethanes, leak seal, and then eventually it was the Habitat Black. And yeah, did it cost me like $300 or $400 to coat that entire thing? Yeah, but the thing will last forever. And it's done. I never will have to touch it again, except for the woodpeckers. Just the only area that wasn't coated with it was the mouth with the teeth, and a woodpecker came down and pecked out the entire mouth. Now I have to go redo the mouth. They had never done that in years. They'd always peck every other place on them until I put that Habitat Black on there, which was another reason I put the Habitat Black on. I get a lot of woodpeckers pecking the shit out of my foam, that tree, everything but the fucking trees in wood. They're pecking the shit out of.
It is an ongoing battle with squirrels.
Do you have squirrel problems?
They destroy the. Oh yeah. Oh, I've tried it all. I've tried hot pepper sauce on stuff, paprika. I tried the Amazon. You buy these little I guess they're peppermint balls. And you stick them in. I stick them in, and they only go after the pumpkin stuff because I use real pumpkin seeds.
Oh,
I throw them on there, and I make my own pumpkin guts that dry really hard, and so they go after the pumpkin seeds.
They can smell right through it. Yeah.
I tried coating those with epoxy with like 5 layers, and they will still. It's ridiculous. I'm thinking they can't smell it, and then I'll dose them in hot sauce and paprika.
They like their spicy flavor, man.
I think I season it for them. Like they still like it.
Hey, man.
Yeah, they like the spicy pumpkin seeds. Who would have thought?
Is your whole haunt? It's all a front yard display, correct?
Correct.
You're a yard haunter like myself. That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
There's no little walk-in area. There's no little startle scares going on there. Or do you no?
No, we don't do anything like that. We a couple years we'll try to integrate like a photo op section where people can sit and take a picture of the monster. I like to bring that back this year. But yeah, it's not a walkthrough. It's not. We don't have actors or anything like that. I don't have a very big front yard, so I gotta make do with the space I have, which is actually kind of nice because it doesn't. You kind of have to get creative. You kind of have to use what you got, and I wish I had a bigger. I wish I had the neighbor's yard with the corner lot because I'd go full bore. But I do what I got.
I thought I had a nice front yard until I talked to that Isaac Alexander from his DIY channel, and I looked at his front yard, and I'm like, oh man, his yard's freaking huge. He's got like a couple acres or something. He's got a ridiculous front yard. It's so stupid.
But yeah, give me a half acre. I could work with that.
Yeah. I don't know what I have. I might have a half acre front yard. I've got a decent front yard, and it works. But I could use a little bit more, but you know what? Then I'd only do more. So I guess I gotta, it keeps you
right?
within your, you have to work within your confines there. So, how long have you
And it's
been?
kind of nice.
Yeah, yeah. How long you been at this? How long you been doing this
Oh,
nonsense?
so I mean, I grew up with this. Like my mom, she was the biggest Halloween fan ever. She did it. She used to build, scarecrows out of the chicken wire and garbage bags full of newspaper back in the '90s, and buy the Kmart Halloween masks and throw them out there. And she did a bit. We had a big side yard. She did a big graveyard, and she did that forever. Um, and so she passed away. Let's see, 2015. And when she passed away, my dad's like, "Do you want her Halloween stuff?" Because at the time I was, I had just gotten married. I had my house, and I wasn't doing anything Halloween. I wasn't doing any of it. And I'll take it. So that was probably 2019, 2018. So I took everything and I took her stuff and I put it out in the front yard. And I said, well, and the problem is when you do that, I was like, I can do better or I can do more. So the itch started developing, right? And the next year I started buying some, I bought bought some animatronics from like Spirit and Home Depot. I bought the 12-foot Inferno guy, and I put those out there, and the display got a little bigger. Not the whole front yard, but let's say about a third. And my wife was like, you might as well just go for it." And I think she regrets saying those words now. And that was back in 2020 during COVID, so everyone had time to spare. Not much going on. So that was 2020, and then every year progressed, and we started sculpting, and it is now escalated. The garage is now a complete storage for the entire Halloween haunts.
Does
I
your
have a little
wife
slice where I can get to
does your wife get into
my
this with
wife.
you? Does she help out? Is she involved?
She's quality control. She has no problem telling me if something sucks. And she will tell me to her face, goes, "That sucks, you need to do something else. Or do this, or you're half-assing it." Even when I'm sculpting, she'll come down and she'll look at it. She goes, "I don't like that, change it." And I'm like, great, cool. I only spend 7 hours on the face. It's fine. But, I like it. She doesn't really get into it until probably this time. Now she kind of gets the Halloween fever, after July 4th. And, she gets back into it. Well, I never stop. I'm in the basement sculpting year round. Whether it's orders or something new or just having fun and messing around.
It's
And then it
therapeutic too.
probably
Do you find it like therapeutic?
it is absolutely. It's time to go down there. Whether I throw on some TV or I throw on my music and I sit there and I start picking away at some clay, and it's relaxing. It's fun, and it kind of gets my mind off things. And can people ask, "You do this year round?" Oh yeah, Halloween will end. I bring down the haunt in one day. The whole thing will come down in one day. I start from 5 a.m. to the next day, and then the next day after that, I'm back in the basement sculpting away for next year.
Yeah, I take a little
So
break. I take a little bit of a break. Not this year though. I took a much less of a break. I decided that I wanted to I got going a little earlier this year than I have been over the last few years. But I've also been a little bit more motivated. I think just bringing Hauntcast back got me a lot more being involved in the show because I'm talking, I'm researching, I'm dealing, I'm just chatting with haunters and people. It's just
yeah,
I'm a lot more engaged in it, and therefore I'm more motivated. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get started. I got some ideas. I want to start working on some things, and I've had some things in my head that I've wanted to do for years that I'm now trying to bring to fruition. I've been dabbling with this idea of trying to take my haunt in a Lovecraft, direction, and I just had to figure out how that would work. And then I was like, one of my favorite stories was Shadow over Innsmouth, and I'm like, I would. This is perfect for my house. I live on Cape Cod. Fish frog creatures, and then I could do the Cthulhu came from
Absolutely.
that. Although I should have probably did Dagon first before I did Cthulhu, but I'll do him next year. But so yeah, I've had Cthulhu in my mind for years. It just took me a while before I finally had the balls to say, all right, I'm tackling that this year. I'm going to get it done. This is going to be my freaking piece de resistance, man. This is going to be my crowning achievement as a haunter, this thing. So
Mona Lisa.
it's going to take me a while. It's going to take a while, and I get it. And I have no problem with it. I gave myself, I figured 2 months should be enough. Might take more, it might take a little less, but it's definitely going to take
We
me
tell
2
ourselves
months.
it'll be enough.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves 2 months.
Yeah, I might be working on it right up until I start putting the haunt out. We'll see. It might be a 3-month job. What do you? Getting back to your mom, you were talking about how you put all your mom stuff out, then you bought a couple of Ant Spirit, a couple of other things. What was the first thing that you actually built from scratch that you put out in your yard?
Like, are we talking completely, even the head itself, sculpting, everything?
Well, I mean, or because what was the first thing that you built? Did you buy a head for it and you just built the body out? Is that what you did?
Yeah. I think if I was talking about, like, first, I would say thing from scratch is probably the 3 giant pumpkin guys. We call them the Pumpkin Lords. We found, like, 200-year-old. They just knocked down this barn locally over here, and we got access to it, and there was these beams. There was these beautiful wooden beams, and they were like 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot tall. And I knew I wanted something big, and that we still had the 12-foot Inferno pumpkin skeleton dude, and we only had him for a couple of years, and I got rid of him. But I like the idea of something massive looking over, something you have to look up at too. I like that idea. So I stumbled on the closed casket pumpkin heads, and those were the bodies that I built from scratch. I mean, PVC. I was on a ladder building these things. 'Cause I'm a short dude. I'm only 5'6", so I had to get on a ladder, put these things up there. PVC, chicken wire, monster mud, and we're using liquid nails for details, buying craft pumpkins and cutting them to fill the abdomen of one guy. I'm wiring a lantern, and those are the first 3 things I built from scratch, and those were the entire summer. Oh, I forgot what year I built them, but that was 2021, I think so. And those are the things I built completely from scratch, from the ground up, and that's still probably the favorite things I ever built. Probably the coolest things I ever built to this date.
And those are out every year. Every year, those are a part of the haunt.
Yeah, every year they come back, even though the heads are starting to get a little sun worn and a little weather kissed now, and they're not so much orange right now, more of a sunny, bleached orange going on from the sun, and they've seen their due, so they'll come back this year, but eventually I gotta figure out new heads for them, and which I'll do. If that's the case, I'll sculpt and.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an awesome collection of jacks that you've carved yourself, right?
Yeah.
Most of those are all original creations.
Yeah, we'll build, but the thing is, the heads on those are so big. Like you look at them from afar, it doesn't seem like, but when you get up close, they're huge. So I'll sculpt new pumpkins and new heads for each one of them, and that'll be a task in hand. But that's something I've been kind of planning on and looking forward to. So. I think that, and then last year was the first year we built the animatronic from scratch, and that was our Jeremiah pumpkin seed dude. Again, we got the PVC and we got all the motor parts from Fire Props, and my wife actually did the clothes. She cut out, sewed the clothes for it. I sculpted the head and the hands, and we call him the Jeremiah pumpkin seed guy, and kind of a play on Johnny Appleseed. And so he has a bag of pumpkin seeds, and he sways back and forth, and he holds a pumpkin on the other hand, and that was cool. That turned out very well, and I'm hoping to do one more animatronic this year. We'll see. I'm running out of time, and I got about 20 different ideas I want to get done before I think I want to be done totally with the haunt and everything by September, last week of September. Hopefully October 1st.
Yeah, I try to be done like a week or two, before I have to start setting up the haunt if I can. And
Yeah.
then I'll tweak some things, like there's always lights, like LED lights I need to replace, or make a few new LED spotlights for the tombstones or something else,
Hmm.
swapping out some of the LEDs and the candles that sit at the base of my tombstones and stuff like that. And I've got this other idea. I've been super gluing. What I do is I take just a small little piece. I used to use like a little piece of Luan. I just cut out like this 2x4 piece of Luan and spray paint it green, and then hot glue the two like PVC candles to it, and then
Hmm.
just kind of slide it right up against the base of the tombstone. But what I've realized that over the years that they just never sit right. They don't like necessarily fall down, but they're never. So this year I had a great idea. It's just taking another smaller piece of PVC pipe, cutting it like a steak, and just banging it down into the ground, and then just sliding the other piece of the PVC candle over it. So then it's mounted in the ground. It won't move. You get what I'm talking about?
No, I
So
I
just
did
like,
that last
yeah, so
year.
it's like a half piece, and then putting like a 1 inch piece of PVC candle over it. So that way it's like sits right in the ground. And I go, I should have been doing this years ago. It just popped into my head last year, and I said, next year when I put these suckers out, I'm just gonna go grab like a half-inch piece of PVC pipe, chop up a whole like couple of 6-inch pieces or whatever, 4-inch pieces, to nail them into the ground, and then slide the candles over them and get rid of those stupid little pieces of wood that I was hot gluing them to, because they just really weren't working with my lawn. The way the grass is, it's just it just can't sit right. So yeah, it's another one of those things. I go, yeah, next year I'll get to it next year.
Next year. Always next
And
year.
this year we'll see if I can get it done. I'm hoping that I can, because that shouldn't be that's not like a big project. It's not like sculpting something or creating a monster. It's just like a simple tweak. Wait a minute. So, did you have any DIY skills whatsoever prior to getting into this? Were you like doing shit around the house? Any skills like that?
I was always a handy guy. Yeah, I was handy, but when it came to like creating and all that, I didn't know what I was doing. I
Your progression went pretty quick. I mean, if you only got into this around 2019, 2020, within like 3 years, your progression is insane. Like, most people don't go that fast. So, the fact that you're sculpting really some really kick-ass props, I'm looking at that going, shit, man. That's
Thank
like, that is, I thought you had been doing this for friggin', I don't know, a decade or more. I mean, I've been doing it for a
no,
decade, and I still don't completely not suck.
it was some aggressive expansion. I ain't lie to you. It was rapid. My wife, I bet you, the day she told me, go ahead, you might as well do it. All right. You're, the sculpting thing, the first thing I ever sculpted was this like half mask. And it was just to play around, see what, get into it. And I still have it. It's down in my workshop. It's absolutely horrible. It was a pumpkin mask. And I'm like, all right, well, and she looked at it and she goes, that sucks. All right, well, let's try something else. So the next thing I did was a witch head. And the witch head, I don't know, the ones I'm doing right now, that was actually the full head prop I ever did. And those turned out okay. And, still people get, message us and asking to buy those. So that was kind of nice. And then we made a pumpkin, and the pumpkins are easy. They're easy, and you screw. What's nice about Halloween, and this, you screw up, it looks better.
Yeah.
So I kind of progressed, and I kind of learned, and you would say I really messed around with clay and took my time on it. Like, one sculpture might have taken me, I would say 4 or 5 months. It would, at first, it would take me a long time, and sometimes it does. I worked on one that took me a year. That's because I was on and off and didn't really pay too much attention to it. And I watched and read books and just kind of self-taught and played around and seen what what kind of textures I can get with certain tools, and and just kind of messed around. In the market and all that, and networking, I met some sculptors, and they gave me some hints and to try this, work with this, and it's a great network. It's a great group of people. There's a group on Facebook I'm part of, and we're always bouncing hints and tricks and tips, and everyone's kind of posting their projects on there, and so you kind of see what I was working on, and so it's like I said, yeah, it kind of expanded pretty quick, but I love it. Like I said, it's very therapeutic, and I have a lot of fun doing it. And the problem is now I want to do bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, and at one point, even my wife was asked, which one has to go? Is it you going to do the haunt, or you going to do making monsters and make that a full time thing? And I say both. So we'll see how that lasts.
Too many people get into this and they try to make a business out of it. I just don't. I mean, maybe you can make a living off of it if you really hustled and did tons of work, but I don't think I seriously don't think it's worth it to do that. I think you're doing the right thing. Do your home haunt and just sell some pieces as people, put out like you did the other day. You throw out, hey, I've got these, I'm looking to sell. I've got a limited amount of time, I got a limited quantity I can make, limited amount of time to get these done. Hit me up right now if you want to pick one up, sell off some, make a couple of bucks to help pay for some materials for your haunt, and then that's it. Don't get bogged down. People turn this into a business, and next thing you know, they're not doing haunts, they're not doing their haunt, they're not doing Halloween anymore, and all this is a business.
They're not
it's
having
not
fun anymore.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore. I'm not doing any of that shit anymore. Like I say, even with Hauntcast now, I'm not advertising. I'm not doing any of that nonsense that I used to do in the past because it's too much hassle. It turns into a job. No, I'm going to put out what I want to put out, when I want to put it out. Though now it's regularly, but I'm not taking it as a job. This is a hobby. No. This is more of a passion hobby, and just like my haunt, I want it to stay that way. I'm not going to try. I don't want to try to turn this into a business. I don't need it anymore. I don't need that. No. I got a job. I got a real business.
I work full time. I will never make a living off this. That's never going to happen. It's not in the cards. It's fun. I sell some pieces. There's people that I make new stuff to sell it, but it's pretty much to pay for materials so I keep on going. Yeah. It feeds back into each other.
Before I forget, let's talk materials. What kind of clay do you like to use?
So clay wise, I use monster clay. It's okay. It's hard to work with, but it's nice because you can leave it. It's an oil based clay. You can walk away from it. It doesn't dry out. But again, it's a little hard to work with. Even with tools, it's not very forgiving with your tools, sculpting tools. You break a lot of stuff. You kind of have to, really get in there. And when it comes to the molding process, even that could be a pain to pick out the monster clay out of the mold. Still great. What's nice about it is you can walk away from it. You can walk away for 3 months and it's not dried out.
Yeah, that's like for Monster Makers, correct? Is that their brand?
Correct. Yeah. That, and I use the wood clay. And that's the water-based clay, and I've used that, and that's what I particularly just use now. It's easier to work with. I sculpt much faster with it, but you can't really leave it alone too long because it does dry out. And you can bring it back to life. It does dry out, but it's not easy, and it's never 100% guaranteed it's going to come back to life. So if you let something dry out, it's say you forget about like a half mask. I forgot, and I did it. I forgot about a half mask in the basement. I was making another mask, and I let it go, and it completely dried out. So I got like wet paper towels and a sponge and all that on it under a plastic bag, and see if it'll come back to life for me. But it's not. Yeah, once it dries out, it's a flip of a coin if you can get it back to life.
What kind of foam do you use?
For the insides, for the props?
Yeah.
I use it comes from you just said it.
Smooth on?
I've used Monster Maker's foam. Smooth On, yeah. Smooth On is the particularly stuff I use. The Flex 3.
There's Brick in the Yard that also sells a lot of materials. I have not really dealt with them that much, which I need to give them more of a chance. I've just been familiar.
They're
with,
out of business.
Oh, they are. Oh, well, I guess not. I guess Smooth On is my company, which sucks too, because that probably is why Smooth On's kind of pricey. But no, I mean, their materials are great, so it's you get what you pay for.
I like Smooth On. It's again, like you said, a little pricey, but it's great stuff. I like it. It's a little more. The Smooth On 3 is a little bit more of a sponge to it, a little more give to it. It's great for pulling out of a mold if you need to.
Is that Flex Foam 3? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that Flex Foam 3, yeah. I've used that. I've used Monster Makers. They're all right. What's nice, they're a little bit better priced, I think. And it does a great job, too. I used when Brick in the Yard was, when they announced they were going out of business, which sucks. I did business with them, and you said you didn't do any transactions with them?
I picked up something from them. I ordered once from them because I wanted to give them a shot, and usually though a lot of the stuff I buy, it's just stuff that they don't carry. They Freeform Air, which is a sculpting epoxy. They don't carry that type, and I don't think they had any sculpting epoxy, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Habitat Black and the Habitat Flex, which I've used recently over the last. Those are the only things I've really. Now I do have some Flex Foam 5, or I had some Flex Foam 10. Like I did a big order because Denny got me a discount. And he got me a discount because he does a lot of work. He has his own prop shop in LA, in Vegas, and he's done a lot. So he ended up getting a deal for me, and I had to buy a whole bunch of shit. And so I had like the Flex Foam 5, the Flex Foam 10, the Silk Pig, some silicone, a whole bunch of other shit. Like I just had like a potpourri. And luckily, most of that stuff is actually still usable. Even though I've had it in my basement for like 6 years, I pulled it out and it still works. I used, I think, the Flex Foam 5 to fill up some gloves, the boots, and a mask that I use, which I probably... I know that some Flex Foams are heavier and some are lighter, right? Is the 3 lighter or is the 3 heavier? I forget. Does it get heavier as it gets higher, or no?
I think so. You don't quote me on that. I've used the rigid stuff before, and that's good. I mean, it gets hard. And like it's good for there was a couple pieces that I just need something like almost like cement to stick into a PVC pipe, and I use that. And the Flex Foam 3 I've used, but when then like Brick in the Yard, when they announced they were going out of business, they put out there they had a bunch of like their own version of Flex Foam that they were getting rid of, and I cleaned them out. I bought the whole litter, and I've been using that stuff as that came, and it's been sitting down there. I haven't been making anything, been trying to finish up projects, and now that I've got some customer orders, I used that stuff, and that stuff worked out great. It was just like the Flex Foam Smooth 3. Very comparable, actually a little bit easier to use. Which now, of course, Brick in the Yard's out of business, then I can't fucking get it. So. But I usually stick with Smooth On. It's like I said, a little bit more pricier, but it's good stuff.
Yeah. What about latex? Do you any specific brand or?
I use Monster Makers. Yeah, they're good. I think price wise, and it's very durable. I do like what is it called? Black Lagoon. I might be saying it wrong. They have a good latex. A little thicker, which I kind of like. If you're doing like half mass, I can really layer it in there and spread it, and I like that how it dries. A little on the pricey side, but that's good stuff. But usually I just buy from Monster Makers. You can get a good gallon of it for a fair price.
What about paint? You airbrush? Do you airbrush your props, or is that what you're right?
Yeah.
What kind of paint are you using? Do you have any
Uh,
specific like that you like that you would like better than others?
no, I've actually tried out a lot. I've tried out. I just bought some Createx Bloodline series that I've been playing with. I've used the Monster Maker stuff. And I use the old distortions at Edmund's recipe too. I go buy just your typical house paint. You can get whatever color you want at the Home Depot. You pick it out. You get whatever quart of it, bring it back. You do the mix of that latex and water, and you can use that and airbrush with it too. And it's a lot more colors, and for the price of it, depends of your, I guess, how much you want to spend too. That really plays a part. But I use that, and that's a great recipe by him, and I think a lot of people that still use that. Um, there's a lot of different brands out there. Now I'm always keeping a lookout, and I'll try anything once. So there's good stuff out there, but sometimes just going to buying your own paint at Home Depot, and you mix that with some of the latex that you're using and a little water, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I got to get better with the mixing of colors, like learning how to create all the different varieties out of like the the primary colors or whatever you call it, and
Yeah.
I need to get a little bit better at that. My skills have gotten slightly better over the last couple of years. I started screwing around with I finally bought a nice airbrush. I got an Iowata. I decided
Nice.
to just spend some money and get a good one instead of screwing around with either that cheap that cheap Harbor Freight ones that they sell, which they have their purpose. If you're
They got
doing
their
like,
purpose.
and then I had this other one called the Grex, and one of the things, my biggest lesson that I learned last year was the reason that I was having so many problems with the airbrush, because I think I had like one of the lower end Paches, and then I had the pistol grip Grex one, and I kept having problems, like the thing kept getting jammed up. I was not cleaning the thing properly. One of the biggest parts of airbrushing, I think it comes down to properly cleaning the brush or the gun out when you're done, taking the entire thing apart, really getting in there, cleaning out everything. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a lot of headache. And that's what I used to run into headaches. And I got so frustrated trying to airbrush, and my main problem was I just had to watch a bunch of videos of people cleaning out their, just cleaning out the products. And I bought the restorer, and I bought all the different, products to clean it out, and just some alcohol as well. And finally learned how to properly clean my airbrush gun. Now I'm so much better. It's amazing how that will help.
It's crazy, and I was the same way when I started. Again, I never airbrushed ever, so that was a lot of playing around, and that thing jammed up so much when I first got going. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And you figure out, oh, you had to clean it. And I cleaned that thing between colors. I almost got it down to where it's like almost disassembling a gun. I can do it, change it out, clean it, and get going. I have two guns usually going at the same time. And I use Posh. I like Posh. For the price, and they're not bad, price wise. So if I mess, and I've gone through a couple now. So just the cheap, those with like the red tip ones, the red handle ones, and you get off Amazon. And it's like $60-$70 depending on when you find them. But I've gone through a few of those, but you can just take it and go. But it's crazy. You gotta clean them and take care of them, and they'll last.
As I remember, I painted for a couple of summers when I was a kid. The setup and the cleanup are half the job. It's not like 5% of the job or 10%. It's like half the job is the setup and cleanup of the paint. Having to clean the brushes when you're done, having to, store everything properly, setting everything up, taping everything off, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It takes, you have to put that time in. You can't cut those corners. Or next time you pick that gun up and that brush up and you try to do any work, the thing's going to be gunked up. You're going to be swearing up and down because you can't get anything done. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think everyone learns that the hard time the first way through is they think, oh, let's leave it there for the next day, it'll be good, and you go back and you're peeling latex out of that little tin can thing, trying to get the paint out, and
The smallest particle will clog that sucker up, and it's ridiculous. You know, you
oh
think,
my god,
yeah,
the smallest.
microscopic freaking.
All of a sudden, your
Uh,
paint
uh,
is spraying two different ways, and you're like, what? You're taking it apart again and cleaning it, and the littlest thing, man, or it spits up. Yeah.
so what out of all your your display, what's your favorite? Is it something that you're like most proud of that's out there?
Trying to say which one's your favorite kid?
Yeah, or
Oh,
just
I would.
I'm not gonna hold you to it, but
You know what? I'd probably say the Jeremiah pumpkin seed guy we made last year. He was a feat because he was the first time I did the head, and I sculpted his head and the chest, and it was at the time the biggest sculpt I ever had. So making that mold was a monster. And then for it to get it on the animatronic PVC, and my wife made the clothes, and to have it all come together, and then you plug it in, and for it all to work, that it was cool. It was probably one of the funner ideas I had, more fun ideas I had, and that one came together pretty well, even though it's laying in pieces in the garage right now. So great time.
what are the fan
Um,
favorites with the crowd? With your neighborhood.
Fan favorites. Well, the one was it's something I didn't make, and so that's why I made a corn monster this year. The one you got, the husk.
Husk. Oh, that was a brand new creation for this year.
That's a brand new creation for this year. We had a old corn monster that everybody loved, and it wasn't mine. Again, it wasn't mine. So I was like, oh, we have to change this. So that's why I made my own. Um, that was always a favorite. Everybody loves the witches. I think that's one of the main ones everyone loves coming back to see the witches and the main witch. Like I built one witch with the main witch head I sculpted. Everybody loves that one. I've had more people buy that witch head throughout the last few years than anything else. And that was one of the second thing I ever sculpted. And then again, we have the scorch witches that they sit around the cauldron. And we have the cauldron. We get the fog machine piped into the cauldron, so it smokes out. And I real burnt wood from a bonfire. I keep to the side. That I put around the cauldron, so it looked authentic. And the hats I make from scratch. I used just heavy duty wire, and I actually made the wire hats, and I used black burlap, and I coated them, and they just look like these witches were set on fire, and they sit around the cauldron. We've had those probably since 2019, 2020. And those are the ones that people keep coming back for is the witches. And we have people ask us to make witches.
Yeah, I like the concept though because you think they burned witches, so scorch
Yeah.
witches would make kind of sense. Yeah, just kind of, yeah. Those are pretty cool. So that was all, like I say, the hats are pretty much made out of wire, like chicken wire, poultry wire, kind of a thing. No,
No, pretty much your heavy duty gauge wire from your Home Depot or
oh, like the 9-gauge wire stuff, right? Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. Bob Cole turned me on to that. He does that infestation yard haunt, and he turned me on to that the 9-gauge wire. And man, I bought a roll of that. I'm almost out of it. Cthulhu is going to definitely squash that because the tentacles coming out of his face are going to be that 9-gauge wire, then wrapped probably in aluminum foil, I'm thinking, and then probably coated up with foam clay or something like that.
Yep. And what's nice with that wire, you could bend it to however you want, and it's not going anywhere.
It's bendable, but yet it will hold that position unless you really you really have to work to rebend it. But yeah, that stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, because when we made the witches, I went for like a search for a witch hat, and I didn't like anything. And I took that wire and I made the rings. I made a framework for 3 witch hats. And then I took black burlap and I cut it out and I put it in there and I took zip ties and I zip tied it all. And just for like a finishing touch, I corpsed the witch hats using the plastic heat gun method. So I wrapped them all in plastic and I hit them with the heat gun to shrink everything and I sprayed it all with a matte black. So it turned out to be like this ratted, tattered witch hats. And, it turned phenomenal. I hate making them now. I've made about 6 or 7 now and I hate it. It is the most time consuming pain.
But you made it for yourself. You don't want to have to keep making them over and over again for people.
No! It's the most time consuming pain in the ass thing to do. And I hate it. And we've had people ask to make us a witch hat for their witch, and I've done it. And I'll just, I'll sit in the garage one day.
It's not worth the money.
It's not, no. It's not worth the time, the money, and, messing with it. And it sucks because making the framework out of that wire is not the easiest thing to do. It's just a time-sucking beast.
Yeah. It's like working with chicken wire, except you're not getting stuck constantly with the little pointy pieces of wire. It's jamming you in your fingertips and all that shit. I've done a lot of work with chicken wire over the years. I haven't done anything recently with chicken wire, but yeah, that it's such a pain in the ass. And I never put gloves on to do it. I've always just used it bare hands to do it. And I always regret it afterwards, but yet I never change and never put gloves because it's too hard to work with the gloves on. So it's just, you have to take a little pain, Oh,
yeah.
What kind of audio or special effects or anything do you use on the big night?
So we keep it. So every weekend we'll let the fog machines go. Most of them. We'll have the cauldron going throughout the week, but on the weekends we got 3 or 4 more fog machines going. Audio wise, I don't do anything. I kind of leave it to
no atmosphere.
No. What's kind of nice is we stumbled on to a couple tricks a couple years ago where the haunt itself makes its own noises. Whether it's just kind of like the sounds of even this, because we do a lot with corn stalks. The corn stalks. Last year we found out we built a windmill, the haunted windmill last year, where it was kind of a feat. And I got these bendable wires, these bendable like tree branches, and I stick them all over the windmill. And the windmill started going, and it started tripping on these branches, and it started making this like eerie, just little sound, and people loved it. And they're like, "Oh, that was such a good idea." I'm like, "That was a complete accident, but cool. Yeah, I'll take full credit for that." So we don't really do anything sounds on Halloween night. We'll throw the speaker out there, and we'll have some sound going, and it's usually kind of some kind of wind sound or something that goes with the theme of outdoors. We don't try. I'm not doing thunder or lightning because there's no storm happening. We try to keep it where it's eerie. I always want an eerie, creepy sound going. So whether it's whatever I decide to do, but that's the only night we have audio out there. I've tried. That was the one thing people have asked me is how come no sound? Every year I put it on the list. And every year I don't get to it.
I can hook you up. I've got these. I got atmosphere that for a number of different years. I change my atmosphere up every once in a while. So I've got all these MP3 files of atmosphere, which has everything from just like crickets. You can hear like insects and a little bit of wind. Usually it's I always use, like more atmosphere droning kind of sound effects. I don't like having music that's recognizable. Even stuff that I dig from like Midnight Syndicate or whatever, I don't like to have like music. I like to have just atmosphere. So I'm always scouring In September, just looking for some kind of a new dark, droney, swampy atmosphere kind of sound that I could run. And I picked up a lot of shit over the years, and I do change it up a little bit. Sometimes the underlying effects, like I have this swamp soundtrack where you get like the little bloop, bloop, sounds of, like the water frog, frog chirping, or, and just noises, maybe a little, crow chirp and stuff like that. So I've got all these, I have the baying wolves as well. I've always got to have the baying wolves going on. And I have a couple, like ones that I just love from collecting these sound effects over the years. So I just mix down this entire track.
So you want to have sounds that add to your scene. You don't want to.
It's got to make sense.
Yeah, it's got to make sense. I don't want I mean, I have witches, but you don't want to have crackling witches and you got a clown theme, or lightning and thunder and you got whatever going on. It's like that doesn't add to it. I want something like just the cricket sound.
Yeah, I'm not playing the Halloween soundtrack or something that's recognizable behind in my haunt. I want it to be completely unrecognizable, just like ominous, creepy, eerie, weird kind of something. Makes you uncomfortable. Yeah, kind of a thing.
You come us and want to make people think there is something coming. There's nothing. Nothing ever comes. I'm not going to play the Nightmare on Elm Street theme to my pumpkin house. It ain't gonna happen.
And so, mostly it's just fog that you use, and then you have your yard kind of makes its own little creepy sounds.
Yeah, it kind of creepy sounds, and I spend a lot of time on just kind of getting the lighting right, and we try to. Maybe this year we'll get audio in there. It depends, I guess. Money plays a part too, and just time and. I get about 10, like I said, you get that list of 10,000 ideas and you try to cross off as many as you can.
If you need a sound effect, if you need one of my atmosphere tracks, I'll send it to you and you can see if you want to use it. I've got a few of them. You can check them out. And if you
I'll hit you up, absolutely.
I'll hook you up, man. I'm good like that. I'm good. So is the neighborhood supportive? Well, you're not really doing a walkthrough. How many people do you get to the house?
We're gonna get some big crowds now. We're right down the street from Horror Props. So we're 8 houses down from each other, 13 houses down from each other. So when they hit viral, I had my haunt going too, and we're great friends. Me and Dave. And so when he started getting all that crowd, they would all realize that there's 2 giant haunts on the same street. And, after that, the crowds have been, they've kind of calmed down, but we do get a pretty good size crowd every year, especially on the weekends. Depending, during that time when all that was going on, we had, honest to God, 1,500 people in the street.
Yeah, that's a lot of people for a little neighborhood.
That's a lot of people, and it's for any neighborhood. That's a lot of people.
I got about 1,500 last year, and it seemed too much. I said I had to kick. Too much. I did a little walkthrough last year, like a little one, real little, but that attracts so many more people. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing that again. That's it. That's the last chance I had, and I got to take it down just a little bit. Without having that, there's less people texting their friends and Snapchatting or doing whatever the hell they do, saying, hey, come on over. There's a haunted house over here. Where if it's just a yard display and me giving out candy, and also a few little startles. I'm always good. I gotta get some scares in there, but that does take it down. But last year it went back up again because I did that little thing with my son, and I was like, that's it. That's the last time I'm doing it. I'm over. Plus, by the time I was done, I'm 55 now. By the time I was done, I was so wiped out by the end. I was like, when it got to about 8 o'clock, I'm like, all right, let's just wrap this shit up. I'm exhausted. I've been at this for like 2 hours, and I'm completely exhausted running around like a maniac. But I finally said, yeah, I got to kick it back. That's a lot.
It's a
And that's
lot.
why I always laugh at people. Everybody's trying to get more people to their house. I'm like, man, I need. If you have like 50 people coming to your house, okay. If you got a couple hundred
That's
people
how it
coming to your
was.
house, yeah,
I liked it. I liked it when
Once
the
you
50 people. I thought that was a good day, right?
yeah, when I was at around 500 people, I was like, this is perfect. This is great. This is perfect amount of people. And then when it started to get closer to 1,000, it gets a little much.
It's a little much, and you almost get a little freaked out. Not gonna lie. There.
You don't want problems. You don't want your
No,
like something
no,
happening, a fight breaking out, or the
no.
neighbors. You
And
just
we
don't
and
want to
I
do.
want to respect. And when we do this, we do our best to respect the neighbors. Um, they didn't ask for this. No, they didn't. They're supportive of it. We have a couple neighbors that are not,
There's always a few.
and it is what it is. You're always going to have them. Um, they have a couple that they hate it. They hate every year, even though they're not my direct neighbor. But it is what it is. But for the most part, the whole neighborhood loves it.
That's funny. Both of my direct neighbors are the ones who ate it.
No, for the most part, long as they said they don't mind, but who knows? But no, they never really say anything, and they can always come up to me and tell me. And yes, what's nice is now the neighborhood is really getting into it. Is really getting into Halloween spirit the last couple of years, and there's a lot more displays in our neighborhood. We got people that are, whether you're putting up the 12-foot skelly down the street, we got one that does it. Well, they do more stuff too. They did a great Nightmare on Elm Street theme, which was awesome. And then, like I said, we have horror props down the street. They do a big thing every year, and then we're kind of the big guys on the street that do it full blown. But then a lot more people are doing it, and it's fun. It's kind of everyone's kind of getting the Halloween spirit every year. And it's kind of nice. But we make sure we don't we don't piss off any neighbors. Last year wasn't bad. Last year's crowds were the crowds I kind of want. You get a couple hundred, 300 a night on the weekends. Maybe on the busy weekends, you get like 4, 6, 500, 600 people come through. But it wasn't anything like it was. I don't want to say that was 2 years ago, and we don't ever want to kind of get back to that size. Like I said, I don't know. There was one out. Me and my wife were looking out, and you couldn't go down the street. I just saw it was just people all over the place, and I mean, at first it's kind of exciting, it's cool, and then you're like, this is a lot, and people can't. It got so bad that one year, no pizza delivery would come to our neighborhood. They'd say you pick up only. Jimmy John's wouldn't deliver. DoorDash wouldn't deliver. Like they knew on the weekends they wouldn't come into our neighborhood. Like they actually had. I don't know if they red flagged us or what. So
Blacklisted you.
blacklisted us. But last year's crowds were much better. A lot less people. Still good crowds on the weekend, and that's kind of where we want to keep it. So well, we definitely do, and we got a lot of people that are returning every year and knowing they can come back, and so you still get new people, but you still get the returning crowd to see what they want to come back every year and see what's changed. What's been added, what's been. So it's fun.
Before I forget as well, what is the for the husk dude that you made? What are you doing for the body? What's the torso or the stock? Like, how have you made it? What are you using?
I haven't made it. That's not going to come until Halloween. I mean, until I.
Oh, you haven't done it yet.
No, I
okay,
haven't done anything yet. This is
what I'm.
What are you doing? What do you got?
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. Let me just throw this by. So what I'm thinking about is getting a. I have to figure out whether it's going to be a 1-inch piece or a 2-inch piece of PVC. I'm thinking then being able to mount it to that, coat it up, make it look more like a stock. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to coat it with, but I might just wrap it in like plastic wrap and hit it with the heat gun, just paint it, give it some texture, make a couple of like PVC arms, maybe 1/2-inch pipes coming out, and making like some arms, and like making the hands probably out of 9-gauge wire for the creepy fingers, like big long fingers. So making it like a corn stalk. I have a corn stalk, or what I call my cornholio kind of creature, that I made years ago out of monster mud. And I don't hate it. I've never been, but I don't get any comments on it, so I know that it's not like a favorite. It's not something that people, I just never get comments on it, like people going, oh wow, that's awesome. So I've eventually got to a point where I'm like, I want to work that out, but I definitely want to have some kind of a corn like stalker or corn stalk creature or something there. And then when I saw that husk, I was like, dude, that would work so great in my yard.
Nice.
And I have no problem buying it. Because that's one of the things where I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like screwing around with that. That would really work. All I need to do is just mount it, figure out how to make the stock, make some arms. I've already made some fake corn stalks where I've done I think Alan Hops has a video on how to do it, where you use some wire, some like floral wire. Or you could use 9-gauge wire, I guess, but you use some thinner wire, floor wire. You take a bunch of heavy-duty contractor bags and you cut out leaf shapes in them. You heat gun them, hot glue them onto the wire, spray paint them, and then they look like corn stalk leaves or whatever.
I'll have to look that up.
So it's one way of doing it, or I might just go grab a bunch of corn stalks and just pull them off, hot glue all the leaves on or something onto it, to give it a much more authentic look, or just maybe even just wrap a bunch of corn stalks together to make the base around the PVC to make the base, so you're coating it with corn. I don't know.
I'm going to use, you said it, I'm pretty much taking a bunch of real corn stalks and wrapping around PVC and sticking the corn on there. But then my idea is I got some, the Home Depot posable skeletons, which I'll mess with and corpse and do some stuff. And I'm gonna have it where I'll make it almost like a mini cornfield behind it is my idea. And then put the skeletons in there like the cornfield is eating the skeletons, and I got husked right in the middle, looking out, glaring out to the street.
You know what I did? I did last year for the first time ever, and I did pick it up from an interview I did with somebody years ago, and I had just never tried it. All I did is I took a piece of rebar, I banged a piece of rebar into the ground, you take the corn stalk, you stick it into that hole, holds perfectly, you make a whole bunch, and you can make a whole little corn stalk area just super easy. Stick them in the ground, you don't have to worry about putting anything behind them, putting any of those, tomato stakes into the ground and cable tying them to that. Rebar, bang it in the ground, make a hole, stick the thing in. I did it last year. It worked great. And I'm like, why haven't I should have been doing this years ago. And it was just a little something I came across, huh?
How tall is the rebar?
Just like a little like a 1 foot, 2 foot piece of rebar. Like what I usually use for the tombstones. Just took it, hammer it down like about a foot, maybe not even, and just stick the thing right in there, and it just pat it around. It holds up great. I didn't even think I even had to step around it with my foot. It just held great, and I made a whole little area around that corn stalk, added a whole new dimension to it. Like I had made fake corn stalks years ago, and they were all right. But had I even had this, and I should have just used real corn stalks. Plus, I now have a corn stalk connection, which I didn't have in the past. I hooked up with somebody who has, so I hooked up with somebody on Facebook who had posted, and now I'm like, great, I took her number down, put it in my phone. I'm like, you're my corn stalk connection from now on. I got a butt.
I had one. I did, and I lost it, and I had to go buy them last year, and I was not happy.
Oh man, you get like 3 for $8, 3 stocks for $8, or whatever the bullshit that they charge you. It's just ridiculous. I went and I got like just such a pile of them for. I think she charged me. I think all in it might have been like $30, $25 or $30. But the amount that I would have spent if I went to Home Depot and bought them or anywhere else, like an Agway, dude, like I say, if you buy, 10 of them, 10 stocks, it's like 30 little stocks for $80 where I had so many, I was trying to figure out where I could put the other ones. Like I put those on the ground, and then I was like, all right, cable tie these to the fence, to this corner of the fence, that corner of the fence, and I had plenty to use all over the place, which was great. I hope this connection holds strong, because I do not want to go back to that shit again.
We used to get them by the truckload, and it was great. And then that connection failed, and like it went away, and now it's like last year I had to go to Menards and buy them, and they're not bad price, but still, you don't get as much for the bang for your buck. And they're not the full right from the cornfield. They've been processed and they're all battered, and to get skimpy ones in there, and I'll have to do it again this year, because there was one year we skipped not doing the corn, and I'll never hear the end of it. I just didn't feel like doing the corn. I didn't feel like putting it up there, and then afterwards, my wife told me don't ever do a haunt again without corn, because it sets the atmosphere for the pumpkins and all that. It really just the scene really sets it. And then last year we overdid the corn, and I loved it. So this year I think we're going to do more. So that's going to be that's a good piece of the budget right there. But
you can never have enough corn, and you can never have enough jack-o'-lantern or pumpkins in your haunt. Never. You can never have too many of those. You can't overdo it. All right, before we wrap things up, any final tips, tricks, techniques that you can share with me or anybody else? Mostly me.
I'll give you a couple. The one I know, the big thing is, I don't know if you do it. Do you do the spider webs in the house, where you buy it from Trenton Mills and Canada, and you rip them, you stretch them, and you put them on the house?
The beef netting?
The beef netting.
Beef netting, yes.
A great way to attach it to your house is the heavy-duty paper clips you get from Office Max. You take those, and you take the netting, and you can attach it to your siding and not put any holes in your siding, and they'll hold tight all year or all season. And it's like the heavy-duty black paper clips that you squeeze on the ends, and it's a great way. You don't have to use, like I said, you have to screw, pound nails, anything like that, and they'll hold tight, and nobody will ever see them, because depending on how many spider webs you put up, it holds great. Another way to do it, and this is a question we get every year. We have we have a lot of jack-o'-lanterns we carved out of foam pumpkins. The carvable pumpkins you get from Joann's or Michael's.
Mm-hmm.
When I first did the haunted pumpkin patch, when we first bought them, I thought I was going to wire each one individually and have it light up. And I'm like, I didn't want to do it. What I did then is I took UV paint, orange paint, and I poured it inside each jack-o'-lantern, and I swirled it around, and I set them out there. And then I bought UV lights from Amazon, and there's those big rectangle ones. And I set those up on the very front of the haunt. You can't even see them, because I put them in these crates. And then I put them on the jack-o'-lanterns, and it looks like each pumpkin is glowing without any lights or any electricity.
So you're swishing it around in the interior of the pumpkin,
yep,
and then hitting it with a black light.
Hitting it with a black light. And they all light up. And you're not messing with electricity. It's a nice little trick. People, that's one of the questions we get every year, is how is the pumpkins lighting up? And I'm like, it's just UV light.
It's a cool little trick. So, I like it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Got one more for us, or no?
Lighting. Yeah, less is more. I think the thing with lighting is you stick to three colors. We did it one year where we had purples and yellows and greens, and it looked like freaking Christmas. And people loved it, and I was like, I hated it. I hated it all season. And so last year we kind of stuck with just the orange and purples. And you really want to. And the great way with lighting too is there's very cheap ways to hide your lights. You know, people, you know, if you want to bring it to more, you know, it looks real. It's like a scene that's happening. You know, the last thing you want to see is looking on the grass and it's seeing your floodlight sticking out in the pumpkin patch, and you know, it kind of takes away from the realism of it all. There's a bunch of ways you can hide lights. You know, whether just putting a pumpkin in front of it. You can go to Joann's during that and buy a $10 crate, and you hit it with some black stain, rub it off, make it look old, stick that in front of a spotlight. There's a lot of things you can do. Even just a hay barrel, stick that in front of a light, and the little things you can do just to hide the lights. And we spent a lot. I spent a lot of time hiding the wires the best as I can. And you know, there's a lot of things, little simple, creative things you can do, and it just on you. When you look at your scene, you can't see any lights for the best you can, and it really brings it like some. It looks, you know, like almost like Disney magic. You know, a lot of simple things you can do doing that.
Yeah, like it's, you know, if you don't use white extension cords, use green or brown or black or something that will hide. Run them along the edges of things or whatever you do, just so nothing stands out. You don't want to break that, you know, take people out of the world that you've created. You want to keep them, you don't want to break that reality that they're in.
Yeah. The reality of it all. And for the great tip is Christmas time is a great year to buy your extension cords and all that for the following season.
Yeah.
Same thing with Joann's and Michael's. You know, if you're looking to get stuff for the following season, go on their websites, go in the stores after that week of Halloween, buy the foam pumpkins that are 70% off. You know, that's when you're going to save the money for the season next year. You know, I don't buy my, and I learned that the hard way. And, you know, you learn that through the years. You know, the stuff that goes on sale at the end of the season, that's the time you want to get your stuff for the next year. You know, that's when it's, you know, it's cheap, and then you're ready to go and start building when it comes summertime. You know, July 5th hits or whenever you decide the building. So, you know, you gotta look for those sales at the end of the season. You know, I know it's, you know, you're not looking to buy now, but I mean, if you're looking to get into this and you want to be a haunter and have a good display and not break the bank, you know, end of the season, look to buy, and then you're good for the next year.
Cole, great advice. I concur with you, my man. Where can all the kids find you on the interwebs?
Pumpkin Riot. I am on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I think that's it. We are working on a website. I dabble in it. I try to get it done. I was supposed to be done this year, and I'm getting to it. And you know, the website's going to be like, it's going to be pretty much, you know, everything about our haunt, our story, and then every once in a while we'll get product up there. And like I said, we only do it on small batches. You know, and then once the batch is over, you know, we're on to the next thing. But the website is coming. And then we will be at we will have our first booth next year at Midwest Hunters Convention.
I guess we missed each other this year. I think you posted, "Damn it, I missed you, man." And I was like, I was doing laps around that thing all day. I was by myself, so I was just walking, doing laps after lap. I was like, man, I'm going to eventually run into somebody I know, aren't I? I guess I barely ran into anybody I knew. Yeah, so.
People left and right. You weren't the only one. There was a few that I was supposed to, you know, I wanted to meet and kind of, you know, talk to, and and I completely missed them. And all of a sudden, and they were all there at the same time I was. I went Saturday, and they're posting the videos and photos. I'm like, I was just there, at the same time as you.
There's always next year, I guess.
Always next year. So
well, get back to making your killer props. Get those orders filled. Get back to your haunt.
No, I appreciate you having me. Appreciate the chat, man.
Please follow the podcast. Give us a 5-star review. Stalk us on social media. Links in the description. And visit our blog page for more show info at hauntcastpodcast.net/blog. Until next time, stay scary.
I got to warn you. You're doomed to stay. Go. Go.